just at the entrance to Capital Reef National Park, and I'm going to make my breakfast sandwiches. Got all my supplies down here, a little table up here. I show in a previous video how to make these sandwiches, so I won't do a step-by-step here, but I'll show you the finished product. I don't know how effective this actually is, but to clean kitchen supplies that are slightly dirty or messy, I have a solution here of 1 part white vinegar to 1 part water, and just spray it down. And then wipe it off. It does a pretty good job of getting the gunk off. Again, I don't know how well it actually cleans or disinfects, but I feel like it does something at least. It's 8:42 in the morning. Breakfast is over, and it's time to get exploring a little bit more. I think I'm going to fix my little tripod here. This is a Joby Gorilla Pod, and I love these little tripods, but they are not durable. I go through a lot of these, and so I'm going to try to put this back on. I mean, this does go back on pretty easily, but it also pops off very easily. So I'm going to take some duct tape and wrap it around that joint so that it won't come off. Here we go. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it is a little bit more functional now. I'm at the trailhead here for this cabin. I believe it was a cabin used between the 1930s and the 1970s by either shepherds or cowboys, something like that. And it's a 0.4 mile round trip walk to the cabin. It's 80 degrees right now, and it's just after 9 o'clock. I got down to probably, I'd say into the 50s last night. I went to bed just with a sheet on top of me. But early this morning I had to pull out my sleeping bag and drape that over the top of me. The great thing about basically all of Utah, except the bottom left corner, is that it cools down significantly at night because of the elevation. Like where I live in northern Utah, I live at about 4,500 feet, and so even if it gets to be 100 degrees during the day, which it can, it still cools down at night. I grew up in Texas, and when it would get to be 100 degrees there during the summer, it would cool down into the 90s at night. Not quite the same. So I'm at the cabin. I just read the little information sign. Apparently this was built in the 1920s up in the mountains over there, kind of higher up from where I camped last night. It was built as a summer logging cabin, and then in the 1930s it was brought down here and used by cowboys as they brought the cattle up here to graze. So let's check out the cabin. A nice lizard there. Hey buddy. I can still see you. Anyway. Looks like maybe an old bed frame here. The table with, I see pieces of horseshoe, cans, pans, jars, shelves over there. Not bad, not bad. I would love to build a cabin like this up in the mountains. I'd love to have a little off-grid cabin that I could drive my SUV to and then just camp out there for a little while, use that as a home base. There's a corral over here, or the remains of one at least. Some big old bones too. It's a neat little spot. It's worth the 5-minute walk out here. Boy, what a beautiful spot for a cabin. This entire stretch of the valley is just stunning. And I wish I could show you every single rock formation and everything, but then the video would be a few hours long, so just know that this is incredible. And this might be my favorite drive that I've ever done. This 2-day loop is just so cool. This is a pretty spectacular wall of rock formations here. Especially these guys right here. Again, those look more volcanic than sedimentary. I'm a sucker for sinkholes, especially in the desert. So around here we've got just pretty standard desert for this part of the park, and then whoom, there's this huge sinkhole. This thing's gotta be, I don't know, 75 feet across, 100 feet across, and about just as deep. Crazy. So that first big formation is called the Temple of the Sun, and this one is the Temple of the Moon. You know, the exterior of these formations looks like a melted candle, or just looks like dried mud. I guess that really is what these things are, or at least what the exterior is. Reminds me a lot of the Fisher Towers near Moab. If you haven't been there, you really should. They're just these series of crazy rock formations, and I've climbed a couple of them, and yes, like climbing just a stack of mud. What a cool place. So not very far from the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of the Moon is Glass Mountain. I don't know if you can see, if the camera will record this, the shining here. But this is a little mound, actually quite a big mound, it's probably 10 feet tall, made up of gypsum, I think. And look at these, just huge pieces of it. So this is just within the boundary of the national park. Apparently there was a second one of these outside of the boundary of the national park, and you know, rock hunters and people like that came and just collected all the rock until until it no longer existed. Kind of sad. This is one of the strangest things I've seen. I've never seen anything like this. I think the Glass Mountain here is the last thing that I wanted to see, the last thing on my list. So I'm going to head out of the park now, head back to the highway. I'm not quite sure how far I am from the highway. I'm guessing 15 miles, something like that. Alright, it is noon. I'm about a mile and a half from the highway out there. So I just thought I'd stop and give a kind of an overview of my thoughts of the route. I have to say that this was some of the most enjoyable 2 days I've ever spent. This drive was just so much fun. The scenery was just incredible. It still is incredible. There wasn't like a dud section of the route at all. Really enjoyed it. Can't recommend it highly enough. This was one of my Utah bucket list things that I've wanted to do for years. I finally got down here to do it, so just super excited, and I'm sure I'll do it again in the future. I enjoyed it that much. There are lots of other side roads to explore that I didn't, and other hikes you can do that I didn't do, but again, I'll save that for another day. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed the adventure.